Okay, since we are in a hurry, we will go to the next sutta. Sutta 31, Culagosinga Sutta, the shorter discourse in Gosinga. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Nadika in the brick house. Now on that occasion, the Venerable Anuruddha, the Venerable Nandya, and the Venerable Kimbila were living at the park of the Gosinga Sala tree wood. Then when it was evening, the Blessed One rose from meditation and went to the park of the Gosinga Sala tree wood. The park keeper saw the Blessed One coming in the distance and told him, "Do not enter this park, recluse. There are 3 clansmen here seeking their own good. Do not disturb them." The Venerable Anuruddha heard the park keeper speaking to the Blessed One and told him, "Friend park keeper, do not keep the Blessed One out. It is our teacher, the Blessed One, who has come." Then the Venerable Anuruddha went to the Venerable Nandya and the Venerable Kimbila and said, "Come out, Venerable Sirs, come out. Our teacher, the Blessed One, has come." Then all 3 went to meet the Blessed One. One took his bowl and outer robe, one prepared a seat, and one set out water for washing the feet. The Blessed One sat down on the seat made ready and washed his feet. Then those 3 Venerable Ones paid homage to the Blessed One and sat down at one side. When they were seated, the Blessed One said to them, "I hope you are all keeping well, Anuruddhas. I hope you are all comfortable. I hope you are not having any trouble getting alms food." "We are keeping well, Blessed One. We are comfortable, and we are not having any trouble getting alms food." Stop here for a moment. Blessed One is a translation for Bhagawa, one of the names of the Buddha, Bhagawa. And you see here, when monks who are disciplined, when the teacher comes, or when the senior monk comes, one takes his bowl and outer robe, and one prepares a seat for him. One sets out water to wash the feet. Then the Buddha asked them whether they are well and getting enough food. They said they are getting enough food. And the Buddha said, "I hope, Anuruddha, that you are all living in concord with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes." Surely, Venerable Sir, we are living in concord with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes. But Anuruddha, how do you live thus? Venerable Sir, as to that, I think thus. It is a gain for me, it is a great gain for me that I am living with such companions in the holy life. I maintain bodily acts of loving kindness towards these Venerable Ones, both openly and privately. I maintain verbal acts of loving kindness towards them, both openly and privately. I maintain mental acts of loving kindness towards them, both openly and privately. I consider, why should I not set aside what I wish to do and do what these Venerable Ones wish to do? Then I set aside what I wish to do and do what these Venerable Ones wish to do. We are different in body, Venerable Sir, but one in mind. The Venerable Nandya and the Venerable Kimbila each spoke likewise, adding, "That is how, Venerable Sir, we are living in concord, with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes." Stop here for a moment. So here is another important passage where the Buddha asked them whether they are living in harmony, in concord, and they said they are. Then the Buddha asked them, how do you live in harmony? And they mentioned a few things. One, he considers, it is a great gain for me that I am living with such companions in the holy life. In other words, firstly, if you are living with good companions, then you should appreciate, you should know that you are living with such good companions and value it. Secondly, they maintain acts of loving kindness through the 3 karmas, through the body, speech and mind, having loving kindness, metta towards each other. So this loving kindness, you don't only practice it in the mind, have to show it through your body language. Sometimes you pat somebody on the back or something. And then speech, you show your metta through kind words, not angry words. And then third, to mental acts of loving kindness. Always think good thoughts towards others. And then lastly, he said, why should I not set aside what I wish to do and do what these venerable ones wish to do? Instead of always wanting to have it your way, if you appreciate those your companions who are with you, then you set aside your own ideas and do what others want to do, or do at least what the majority wants to do, or do what the teacher wants to do. So a lot of conflict arise, not only in monasteries but even at home, because you don't practice these things. Firstly, whether you are in a monastery or at home, you should appreciate those people you stay with. Firstly, especially like in a family, if you have a spouse, then when you married the spouse, it was because you had a great appreciation for that spouse. But after many years of marriage, some people, they forget, they don't appreciate, they don't think like this. It is a gain for me, a great gain for me, that I am living with such a companion. So sometimes I've seen with my own eyes that when a couple, when they are young, because of the physical attraction, they have a lot of love. But later, when they are old, in their 60s, some of them, then they start to have a lot of friction. I've even seen some couples, at the time when they need each other most, 60, 70, one cannot stand the other anymore and goes off. Partly because sometimes one of them, especially the woman, they tolerate the husband because of the children. The children are young, so they tolerate the husband, and the husband's ego is so big. I tolerate many years, but when they are in the 60s, then the wife doesn't need the husband anymore, and the children normally they will go towards the mother, and then at that time, if the man still has a big fat ego, then the wife will just pack up and go off, and the children will follow the wife, and then the man is left all alone. I've seen this a few times. So you have to be careful to even at home to practice, like monks say, to appreciate your companion and to show loving kindness through body, speech, and mind. And then not always want to have your way. Here he says, I should set aside what I wish to do and do what the others want to do. So don't always have things your way. Be considerate. In a monastery also, sometimes a lot of friction arises because some people, their ego very fat, and then speak very loudly instead of speaking gently. You just have to open your eyes and open your ears. There are some people very obvious to everybody, speak very loudly, very inconsiderate and all these things. So this is the way. In our website now we have put, when you come to the monastery, harmony is very important. 1 or 2 years ago, during the Vasa, we had quite a number of ladies here, and they started to quarrel with each other, and even nearly came to blows. So we know who are the people who like to quarrel. After that, we don't allow them to come anymore. So in the same way, if you come to a monastery, you create problems. Next time, we know you won't get a chance to come here again. So this is the way to practice loving kindness to the body, speech, and mind, and then to appreciate the companions who are with you, and don't be always wanting to do things your way. Do sometimes what other people want to do. And the Buddha said, good, Anuruddha, I hope you all abide diligent, ardent, and resolute. Surely, venerable sir, we abide diligent, ardent, and resolute. But Anuruddha, how do you abide thus? Venerable sir, as to that, whichever of us returns first from the village with alms food, prepares the seats, sets out the water for drinking and for washing, and puts the refuse bucket in its place. Whichever of us returns last eats any food left over, if he wishes. Otherwise he throws it away where there is no greenery, or drops it into water where there is no life. He puts away the seeds and the water for drinking and for washing. He puts away the refuse bucket after washing it, and he sweeps out the refectory. Whoever notices that the pots of water for drinking, washing, or the latrine are low and empty takes care of them. If they are too heavy for him, he calls someone else by a signal of the hand, and they move it by joining hands. But because of this, they do not break out into speech. But every 5 days we sit together all night discussing the Dhamma. That is how we abide diligent, ardent, and resolute. I'll stop here for a moment. So the Buddha is asking them, are they diligent? And they say yes. And the Buddha asks them to explain how they abide diligent. And then they say, when in the morning they go for Pindapata, and then they come back, whoever comes back first will prepare the seats for everybody else. Set out the water for drinking and for washing the feet. And put the refuse bucket in place. And then, of course, he will eat his food. And if there's leftover, sometimes the monk will leave the leftover there. Then whoever comes back later, if he wants, he can take the leftover food. Otherwise, he throws it away. But here it mentions he throws it where there is no greenery, or drops it into water where there is no light. Why? Because in the monk's precepts, it is stated that we should not throw food over plants and all that, because plants are the abodes of unseen beings, fairies reside in plants. So if you throw oily food on the plant, they get annoyed, dirtying their home. And then also if there's some water, pond or something with some life form, if you throw too oily food into the water, some of the life there, the fish or what, may die. But if they don't die, it's okay. But if they might die, then you should not. So whoever eats last, he puts away the seeds for drinking and for washing. Put away the refuse bucket, sweep out the eating place. And anytime they see when the water for drinking or washing is not enough, or the toilet, then they will fill it up. If it's too heavy, he signals somebody else to help, but they don't talk. They only talk once in 5 days when they sit down at night discussing the Dhamma the whole night. So you see these monks, they don't have the sloth and topper. They can discuss Dhamma the whole night. So when we stay together in the monastery also, we try to practice this, because there are certain things you walk around, you see if the rubbish bin is full or something, you can take it out, tie it up, put it one side, so that when it's time for throwing, somebody will throw it, then put the new this dustbin plastic bag, and then sometimes you see the towel falls down, you put it back in its place. Whatever needs to be done. Sometimes the toilet doesn't have toilet paper, should go and change. Put the new toilet paper in there. If there's no soap, you put. If you don't have soap or detergent or anything, you tell me. Then you take it from the store and put it in the proper place. And the Buddha continued, good, Anuruddha. But while you abide thus diligent, ardent and resolute, have you attained any superhuman state, a distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones, a comfortable abiding? Why not, Venerable Sir? Here, Venerable Sir, whenever we want, secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, we enter upon and abide in the first jhana. Venerable Sir, this is a superhuman state, a distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones, a comfortable abiding which we have attained while abiding diligent, ardent and resolute. And the Buddha said, good, Anuruddha. But is there any other superhuman state, a distinction and knowledge worthy of the noble ones, a comfortable abiding which you have attained by surmounting that abiding and making that abiding subside? Why not, Venerable Sir? Here, Venerable Sir, whenever we want, with the stilling of applied and sustained thought, we enter upon and abide in the second jhana. Similarly, with the fading away as well of delight, we enter upon and abide in the third jhana, and in the fourth jhana. Venerable Sir, this is another superhuman state, a distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones, a comfortable abiding which we have attained by surmounting the preceding abiding, by making that abiding subside. And the Buddha continued, good, Anuruddha. But is there any other superhuman state which you have attained by surmounting that abiding, by making that abiding subside? Why not, Venerable Sir? Here, Venerable Sir, whenever we want, with the complete surmounting of perceptions of form, with the disappearance of perceptions of sensory impact, with non-attention to perceptions of diversity, aware that space is infinite, we enter upon and abide in the base of infinite space. Venerable Sir, this is another superhuman state, which we have attained by surmounting the preceding abiding, by making that abiding subside. Good, Anuruddha. But is there any other superhuman state which you have attained by surmounting that abiding? Why not, Venerable Sir? Here, Venerable Sir, whenever we want, by completely surmounting the base of infinite space, aware that consciousness is infinite, we enter upon and abide in the base of infinite consciousness. Similarly, in the base of nothingness, in the base of neither perception nor non-perception. Venerable Sir, this is another superhuman state which we have attained by surmounting the preceding abiding. Good, Anuruddha. But is there any other superhuman state, a distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones, a comfortable abiding, which you have attained by surmounting that abiding, by making that abiding subside? Why not, Venerable Sir? Here, Venerable Sir, whenever we want, by completely surmounting the base of neither perception nor non-perception, we enter upon and abide in the cessation of perception and feeling, and our taints are destroyed by our seeing with wisdom. Venerable Sir, this is another superhuman state, a distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones, a comfortable abiding, which we have attained by surmounting the preceding abiding, by making that abiding subside. And Venerable Sir, we do not see any other comfortable abiding higher and more sublime than this one. Good, Anuruddha. There is no other comfortable abiding higher and more sublime than that one. I stop here for a moment. So here you see, when the Buddha asked Venerable Anuruddha, have you attained any superhuman state? This superhuman state should be Uttari Manusa Dhamma. Uttari Manusa Dhamma, higher than human states. Uttari Manusa Dhamma, here is a superhuman state, a supernormal state. A distinction in knowledge, in the distinction in knowledge and vision, worthy of the noble ones, Aryans. And then, after the Buddha asked this question, the Venerable Anuruddha replied, yes, he has attained the four jhanas and the four arupas, and the cessation of perception and feeling. You see here, they never talk about the jhanas mentioned in Vipassana meditation. Vipassana meditation always talk about the jhanas, the 16 jhanas and all that. You find never mentioned. The Buddha always talks about Aryan stages in terms of the jhanas. The four jhanas, the four arupas, and cessation of perception and feeling. Which leads to arahanthood. When a person attains that cessation of perception and feeling and comes out of it, his taints are destroyed by seeing with wisdom, attaining arahanthood. And then there's no higher state than that. So be very clear, when the Buddha talks about Aryan stages, he's not talking about insight, he's talking about these jhanas only that leads to the various stages of path and fruit. Then when the Blessed One had instructed, urged, roused and encouraged the Venerable Anuruddha, the Venerable Nandya and the Venerable Kimbila with a talk on the Dhamma, he rose from his seat and departed. After they had accompanied the Blessed One a little way and turned back again, the Venerable Nandya and the Venerable Kimbila asked the Venerable Anuruddha, have we ever reported to the Venerable Anuruddha that we have obtained those abidings and attainments that the Venerable Anuruddha in the Blessed One's presence ascribed to us up to the destruction of the taints? And he said, the Venerable Ones have never reported to me that they have obtained those abidings and attainments. Yet, by encompassing the Venerable One's minds with my own mind, I know that they have obtained those abidings and attainments. And deities have also reported to me, these Venerable Ones have obtained those abidings and attainments. Then I declared it when directly questioned by the Blessed One. I'll stop here for a moment. So just now Venerable Anuruddha answered on behalf of the other two that all of them have attained all these jhanas and liberation, final liberation. So they said, how come we have never told you that we have attained all these states? How come you know? Then Venerable Anuruddha said, by reading your mind. And the other way is these devas or devis have told him. Then the spirit Diga Parajana went to the Blessed One. After paying homage to the Blessed One, this spirit must be a deva. After paying homage to the Blessed One, he stood at one side and said, it is a gain for the Bhajans, Venerable Sir, a great gain for the Bhajan people that the Tathagata, Arahant Sama Sambuddha dwells among them, and that these three clansmen, the Venerable Anuruddha, Venerable Nandya, and Venerable Kimbila, on hearing the exclamation of the spirit Diga Parajana, the earth gods exclaim, it is a gain for the Vajans, a great gain for the Vajan people, that the Tathagata, Arahant, Sama Sambuddha dwells among them, and these three clansmen, the Venerable Anuruddha, Venerable Nandya, and Venerable Kimbila, on hearing the exclamation of the earth gods, the gods of the heaven of the four great kings shouted also, it is a gain for the Vajans, etc. And the gods of the heaven of the 33, the Yama gods, the gods of the Tusita heaven, the gods who delight in creating, the gods who wield power over others' creations, the gods of Brahma's retinue, all exclaim, it is a gain for the Vajans, a great gain for the Vajan people, that the Tathagata, Arahant, Sama Sambuddha dwells among them, and that these three clansmen, the Venerable Anuruddha, Venerable Nandya, and the Venerable Kimbila. Thus, at that instant, at that moment, those venerable ones were known as far as the Brahma world. I'll stop here for a moment. So here you see, these three Arahants, because they are practicing so well, this Deva, Diga Parajana, tall Parajana, came to praise them in the presence of the Buddha. And when the earth gods, earth spirits heard, they also shouted the same thing. And then when the four great kings heard it, they also shouted. And one heaven after another, they heard this. They all shouted, all the gods shouted up to the Brahma heavens, the first jhana level. So these three Arahants were known to all the devas up to the Brahma world. And the Buddha said, so it is, Diga, so it is. And if the clan from which those three clansmen went forth from the home life into homelessness should remember them with confident heart, that would lead to the welfare and happiness of that clan for a long time. And if the retinue of the clan from which those three clansmen went forth, the village from which they went forth, the town from which they went forth, the city from which they went forth, the country from which those three clansmen went forth from the home life into homelessness, should remember them with confident heart, that would lead to the welfare and happiness of that country for a long time. If all nobles should remember those three clansmen with confident heart, that would lead to the welfare and happiness of the nobles for a long time. If all Brahmins, all merchants, all workers should remember those three clansmen with confident heart, that would lead to the welfare and happiness of them for a long time. If the world with its gods, its Maras and its Brahmas, this generation with its recluses and Brahmins, its princes and its people, should remember those three clansmen with confident heart, that will lead to the welfare and happiness of the world for a long time. See, Diga, how those three clansmen are practicing for the welfare and happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world, for the good welfare and happiness of gods and humans. That is what the Blessed One said. The spirit Diga Parajana was satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So this last part, the Buddha says that if the world should think of these three Arahants with a confident heart, that means to have trust in them, to have faith in them. Whoever has faith in these three Arahants, they would gain much merit. It will be for the welfare and happiness of them for a long time. So this contradicts what nowadays some people say, that when you practice a spiritual path, you are selfish. You never benefit anybody, you only benefit yourself. But here you see, when a person practices well, everybody is happy that they are practicing well, because when a person practices the spiritual path, firstly you keep sila, which means you to harm nobody, right? They are not a nuisance in the world. People in the world which you create problems are those who don't keep sila, firstly. Secondly, they have metta for all beings. Thirdly, because they are practicing the spiritual path, they are showing people how to practice, practicing in seclusion, striving with meditation, and remember yesterday we heard about charana, the 10 factors of conduct or practice for a monk. So when a person practices the spiritual path, all these unseen beings, they appreciate. They are trying to cut our ego. People in the world, we normal people, ordinary people, we how do you say? We do a lot of things because of our ego, because of our greed, hatred, and delusion, and so we cause conflicts in the world. We have conflicts with others and all that. So in the spiritual path, we put down our ego. Always remember, always look into your mind. Whatever you think, whatever you say, always examine. Whatever you do, what is your motive? Usually you find a lot of us, the motive is the ego or the greed, the hatred. Delusion is harder to see. So whenever you look into your mind, then you understand yourself, whether you are saying what you should be saying, whether you are acting in the way that you should be acting. So whether you are thinking in the right way and all this. Okay, we have to stop here. Just finish 1 hour.
Thank you again for a wonderful Dharma, very insightful. Thank you. Can you instruct us on wakefulness, on how one begins to not sleep or focus more on the spiritual path rather than sleep? I don't know if that's clear enough. But
Yes, I get what you're trying to say. How can we practice this Jagarya Nu Yoga, devotion to wakefulness? In other words, how to sleep less, right? Okay. In the Buddha's Dhamma Vinaya, the Buddha taught that in the middle watch of the night, which means 10 p.m. until 2 a.m., that is the time for a monk to take a rest. And actually now scientists say that is the best time to take a rest, as a time when our certain organs shut off. So this 4 hours, a person on the spiritual path takes a rest. But even these 4 hours in the Buddha's discipline, the Aryan discipline, the Buddha tells the monks to try not to fall asleep even during the 4 hours of rest. So those who can do it, they lie down to rest. They rest the body, but they keep the mind awake by, for example, doing the chanting, like the Buddha taught the first meditation. 32 parts of the body, head, hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, and all that. So they keep chanting. But for beginners, that is impossible. You need to fall asleep. Otherwise, you'll be groggy the next day. So, since the Buddha has given this standard of 4 hours, actually, that is a very good indication that actually 4 hours of rest is enough for the body. The only thing is, for most people, our mind is so scattered that 4 hours is also not enough. But if you really are keen to make quick progress, then you try to put on the timer, either on the alarm clock or use your handphone to time it so that after 4 hours of sleep, you get up. And then when you get up after 4 hours of sleep, you try to meditate. And if you do that, you find that actually your mind can concentrate much better. So if you try to sit up and meditate as long as you can, probably you won't last beyond half an hour or 1 hour. But never mind, even if you can meditate for half an hour, and after that you go to sleep again. Then the next morning, then after, say for example, if you normally sleep, according to yoga, you should try not to sleep more than 6 hours a day. Actually, if you are practicing well, reasonably well, 5 hours also might be enough. And anyway, if you can't make it 5 hours, then okay, you tell yourself, don't sleep more than 6 hours in a day and night, in this 24-hour cycle. Try not to sleep more than 6 hours. So, okay, if you think you are going to need to rest for a short while in the afternoon, then you say for example, you're going to catch 40 wings in the afternoon, say like half an hour. Then at night you try to sleep 5.5 hours. 5.5 hours. So first you sleep 4 hours. You sleep 4 hours, then you get up, meditate, say half an hour or 1 hour. Then after that, how much time you have left? 1.5 hours. So you go and sleep again 1.5 hours. And then when you wake up, then you are quite refreshed enough. Then in the morning when you meditate at 4:30, you find you can meditate better than instead of sleeping 6 hours at one stretch. And then you come and then you still have a lot of sloth and torpor. I mean, you still can, if you are able to fight off the sloth and torpor, make a lot of effort, and sloth and torpor can go away. So it seems now that scientists have found, in the extreme case, a person needs 2.5 hours a day, because it seems they did some experiments with soldiers. They want to know, because the army wants to know during times of war, and they have to fight, what is the minimum amount of sleep you need so that they can still fight. So they found about 2.5 hours, it seems. But of course, if it's protracted a long time, it might not be enough. But so since 2.5 hours is the very minimum, so if you sleep 4 hours, then and then you get up and meditate, you find you can do it slowly. You can reduce to 3 hours. After some period, if you progress, you reduce to 3 hours. You get up after 3 hours, then you meditate half an hour or 1 hour. After that, you can sleep again another 2.5 hours. Makes a difference. Makes a difference. Break up your sleep instead of one long stretch. And then in the afternoon, try not to sleep longer than what we call a cat nap, the very minimum. The best is don't sleep more than 15 minutes. So you can train yourself, like if you are used to sleeping 1 hour, then you put your alarm clock, your timer. After, say, like 45 minutes, you have to get up. And then after you get used to it, then you reduce it to half an hour. And after that, you keep reducing until about 15 minutes. But one thing, just tell you something that might be helpful. After our meal, our main meal, all the blood rushes down to your stomach. So a lot of people, the sloth and torpor will KO you. People are ready to crash out. So that's mainly because the blood goes away to your stomach. So what you can do is you need to lie down. So you lie down, you put some pillow or something, put your feet higher than your head, so that the blood rushes down to your head. Then after 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 5 minutes, then you notice you are not so sleepy anymore because it changed the blood in your head. When the blood in our head is a bit stale, you feel sleepy. That's why you see these yogis, they do upside down. The whole body goes vertical, or the blood goes down to the brain. But if you do that, don't do too long. Try not to do more than 1 minute or 2 minutes. You do too long, you get a headache. Okay?
And taking Sutta 31, how come the practice to recognize the blessed one?
Because obviously he had not seen the Buddha before.
It's already quite famous at the time.
Yeah, there are so many people.
Then in Sutta 31 again, the three men are already Arahant. Why do we still need to discuss the Dhamma?
Because they value the Dhamma. They have so much respect for the Dhamma. When they discuss the Dhamma, they are happy and also they like to share with each other the Dhamma. It doesn't mean a person is an Arahant, he knows all the suttas, For example, the first 5 monks who were enlightened, one of them was, what's his name? Asaji. So remember Asaji, he went on alms round in the Pata soon after he was enlightened. So Venerable Sariputta saw him, hey, this monk, so bright, his face, so so peaceful, radiating peace. So he was very impressed. So he came to this Venerable Asaji and asked him. He thought, this monk is so good, his teacher must be even better. So he asked him, who is your teacher? What does your teacher teach? Then this Venerable Asaji said that his teacher is this our Bhagava Arahant Sambuddha. And then he said what? He said, I'm just newly ordained, just become a monk. He said, I don't know much Dhamma. I cannot tell in detail. I cannot explain to you in detail my teacher's Dhamma. But in a few words, I can say. Then the Venerable Sariputta said, never mind. You explain to me, the short or long is okay. Then he explained all dhammas arise to conditions and all dhammas cease to conditions. In other words, everything in the world arises to conditions and cease to conditions. And just hearing this, Venerable Sariputta, because his mind probably was very clear, he understood and attained stream entry. So the point I'm trying to make here is, see this Venerable Asaji already liberated, already an Arahant, but he had heard very few suttas. Because the Buddha, in a matter of a few days or a few weeks, taught them a few suttas and they became enlightened. They became enlightened because their mind was very clear. If a person has attained 4 jhanas, the mind is very clear. Very often we find in the suttas and the Vinaya books, the Buddha speaks only one sutta. They listen to sometimes only one sutta and they become enlightened. So after they have become enlightened, it doesn't mean they know everything, A lot of suttas they don't know. So when they sit together, they discuss and they get to know more. Anyway, out of these 3 Arahants, 2 of them are only newly enlightened. Probably remember Anuruddha was enlightened earlier. The other 2 was just enlightened only.
Like you refer to Sutta number 29, where the Buddha talked about the concentration.
Yeah.
Even though a man who has attained concentration in the Sutta 29, which earlier Bhante has mentioned, this would be the jhana. So, and this Sutta was spoken shortly after Devadatta left the original Sangha. And Devadatta, as we all know, that he could attain the 8 jhanas. So it's a bit confusing. If he should attain the 8 jhanas, that means he has done away with most of the hindrances.
Yes.
And he has so much greed for fame, and he has even great review for the Buddha. So I was wondering whether he has fallen away later and he has lost his jhana or what.
Yes, firstly, he had this obstruction of this conceit. He was a very conceited person and ambitious. So after he became famous, because he had psychic power, then he wanted to take over the Buddha's place. He asked the Buddha to step down and allow him to become the leader of the Sangha. And the Buddha scolded him in front of all the monks and likened him to spittle, saying that you are just like what we people spit away, and you dare to say you want to become the leader of the Sangha. And because of that, he had a lot of hatred for the Buddha, putting him down in front of everybody, likening him to spittle. So after that, he planned to kill the Buddha. The moment he had this intention to kill this Buddha, the Buddha, I think all his psychic power fell away. He fell out of jhana. His mind was very disturbed already, agitated. He was planning how to kill the Buddha. With such a mind, how can a person attain the jhanas? So he would have lost all his jhanas, and later he fell into hell. So you see, when the Buddha says that when a person attains jhana, the hindrances fall off, sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry and doubt fall away. But that is generally true for most people. But in the case of Devadatta, because of his ego, because of the mana, conceit, he had this ill will for the Buddha. Once the ill will came to the point where he wanted to kill the Buddha, the ill will was very strong. So that is a hindrance. So he must have fallen out of jhana and lost all his psychic power. So that's why. But anyway, he is the only one that having attained psychic power went off the deviant way.
On Sama Samadhi, so we talk about the Noble Eightfold Path. So here is a very good example. Devadatta walks the wrong Eightfold Path. So because the Noble Eightfold Path starts with the right view and then ends with Sama Samadhi, so it goes to show that Devadatta doesn't have right view. So he ends up in a wrong samadhi, or is there such a thing as wrong samadhi?
No, the samadhi is right samadhi, but it is not Aryan samadhi, not noble samadhi. Because noble samadhi, noble sama samadhi in the suttas is the four jhanas supported by all the other factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. So he does not have all the factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. So although he has right concentration, it is the same as the concentration of the external sect ascetics. People who have psychic powers and all that, they have right concentration, but they don't have the noble or Aryan right concentration, which is supported by all the other factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. Also, as you mentioned, meditation without right view is dangerous. The Buddha always says that you must have right view first. That is the first factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. If you don't have right view, you have not entered the stream and you have not entered the Noble Eightfold Path. So like in the case of Devadatta, he attained the last factor, but because he did not attain right view, that eventually led him to hell. So it is the same nowadays. A lot of meditation teachers, they stress so much on meditation that they tell their disciples not to study the suttas, not to listen to the Dhamma and all that. That is lopsided development. We must always have the theory with the practice. The theory is learning the Buddha's Dhamma first to get the right view. Then after that only, you can make more effort in meditation. But if you balance approach is to do both at the same time. But in the suttas, the Buddha says that first you should get right view, even before you practice the 4 satipatthana that is stated in the Samyutta Nikaya.
Last one, Manju. You see that Buddha always, whenever he sees his disciples, he's always very concerned about their well-being, and he always asks whether they get enough alms food or not. So, but earlier we read in Sutta that even if the disciple does not get enough alms food, he should stay on if his practice is progressing very well. But ideally, you can see that the Buddha would prefer them to have good support and also good progress.
Actually, it's not exactly that if a monk does not get enough alms food and he's progressing well, that he should stay in that place. In the Vinaya books, it is stated that if a monk stays in a certain place and he does not get enough food or he does not get enough nutritious food, he should leave the place. Because that means if you don't get enough food or enough nutritious food, then you don't have that support to continue your practice. Just like when the Buddha was fasting, he became so weak that he could not enter jhana. Then only later when he took one meal a day, one good meal a day, then he had enough strength to actually enter jhana. So when in the suttas earlier we read how if the requisites are not easily obtainable, but of the 4 requisites, the food is the most important. Without sufficient food, you cannot practice. Well, of course, usually the case is that sometimes, for example, if you live among the hill tribes people, you will have enough food. The only thing is sometimes the quality is not that good, but it's enough to get by. Last time I used to stay in Thailand, we go to certain remote places. We go on alms round the whole morning. We only get white rice and one egg, one hard-boiled egg or something. But that is enough to last you 24 hours if you eat enough rice. Or sometimes you get a lot of white rice and one small fried fish. That is enough to at least last you because there's some protein. It can last you 24 hours a day. But if you are a vegetarian and you don't want to eat that fish, you won't survive. I've known monks who try to beg for their food and stubborn want to hold on to the vegetarian diet. They become so weak that they get sick. If a mosquito bites you, you're not strong enough. Your resistance is not strong. Your immune system is not strong enough. You very easily succumb to various types of sickness. You won't be able to survive long in the forest. That's why the Buddha had the wisdom to instruct the monks, don't choose your food. Just eat what is given to you. And monks who practice the vegetarian food are actually Devadatta's followers, not the Buddha's followers.